let me set the scene. You're with your girl, you're getting it on, the mood is just right, but your dick just isn't fully in it. It's not that you're flaccid per se, but you're not exactly hard either. For whatever reason, it just won't stay at 100%. I probably don't need to tell you along the list of most unwelcome things in the bedroom, a weak erection is right up there. But unfortunately, they can happen, and they can happen to the best of us. If you have a penis, you've probably experienced this at one point, and if you sleep with someone with a penis, well, you've probably experienced this at one point. And if you've been on the receiving end of like a 50 to 80% erection, you know that it might be nice to get back to full capacity. Now, there are lots of reasons that this may be happening to you, and lucky for you, there are some simple changes that can be made to bring your Old Faithful back to full turgid man of steel status. But before I get into that, I do want to say that there is a difference between the occasional weak erection and full-on erectile dysfunction, which is a different issue. If you are unable to consistently get and maintain an erection, that is something that you should speak with your healthcare provider about, and also watch all of my other videos on ED so that you can have the answers to what's actually going on. But if this only happens on occasion, or you're just generally looking to get as hard as humanly possible, well, then this video is for you, my friends. I'm Caitlin V, and I am going to share with you 5 ways to harden your erections. So stick around, because some of these are going to surprise you. Number 1 of 5, and this may be surprising, communicate. A big cause of many sexual issues and dysfunctions is actually stress. So if you're noticing a change in the quality of your erections, this is a good place to start your personal inquiry. Have you been stressed out at work? What about issues inside of your relationship? Maybe you are struggling in a more general sense, which is like your mental health or your anxiety. If you have a sense that the stress in your life could be part of what's causing you not to be able to achieve and maintain an erection, my first piece of advice is to communicate with someone in order to address those issues head on. Now, you might have to communicate with the person who you're having sex with, the person who's involved in much of the stress, your job, or maybe just communicate to a professional mental health expert or a coach. But most importantly, get into contact and communication with another person so that you don't feel trapped in figuring this out all on your own. Simply communicating to your partner about what's going on sometimes can make all of the difference for you. It can take all of the pressure off of your penis and allow him to fire on all cylinders again. Unfortunately, the stress of not speaking that out loud does the opposite and can actually make things worse. So the best thing that you can do in these situations is simply talk through what you are experiencing. Communicate with yourself, honestly. Communicate with your partner. Name the thing that's going on. Call out the elephant in the bedroom. It will alleviate the stress that you have around the issue, creates an opportunity for closeness, and can help you to solve things once and for all. It is okay to have insecurities and bumps in the road, okay? We all have them. Women, hopefully, if you're with a quality person, she will understand that your body is responding to your life circumstances just the same way that hers does, just the same way that mine does, and everyone else. All right, number 2 of 5 for a weak erection, walk it out. My second tip is to walk it out, and I mean that literally. Go for a freaking walk. I say this, I could use this advice as well. Weak erections at their core are, in addition to being a mental and emotional issue, a blood flow issue. As you know, erections are caused by a rush of blood to the penis. So if yours isn't as hard as you would like it to be, you're going to want to address the blood flow to the penis. Getting in some physical exercise may not be the sexiest piece of advice that you've heard, but it does happen to be wildly effective. Working out increases blood circulation. It helps you regulate your blood pressure. It actually also helps to mitigate your stress. All of that helps with the flow of blood down there, especially when you're getting it on. And this doesn't have to be like an outrageous amount of exercise. It can just be a little bit more than what you were already getting. Walking, jogging, joining a sports team can really make a big difference, and it's a great place to start. Also, if you're looking for specialized exercises, strengthening your pelvic floor in a way that doesn't make it tighter can go a long way. So please watch all of my other videos on doing pelvic floor exercises, Kegels, and reverse Kegels. I have so much content dedicated just to working out that part of your body. check it out on my channel. Number 3 of 5, check on what's going in. My third tip for rock hard erections is to consider what's going into your body. In other words, if we are what we eat, then it shouldn't come as a surprise that what we put into our body directly impacts how it functions. I know, it's true. Look, I love a bag of fiery hot Cheetos as much as the next person, possibly more than the next person, but there is no denying that processed foods affect our overall health. And your boner is a really good indication of your overall health. Lots of doctors recommend, for example, following a Mediterranean diet, which focuses on eating a balanced nutrition of veggies, proteins, and healthy fats, cutting out sugar, decreasing alcohol, of course, everything in moderation. And if you eat well, then there is always space for a little treat or a little cheat now and again. But when it comes to consumption, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, processed food, all of it impacts the circulatory system, and it will all impact the quality of erections, especially over time. And one more note on that, we've all heard of whiskey dick, right? We're all adults here. Well, it is a real thing. So if you find that you are struggling to get hard after a night of drinking, the answer may really just be as simple as not drinking. It may not sound that fun or sexy, but call a spade, which brings me to number 4, sleep. Sleep. Yes, you can improve the quality of your erection just by getting quality sleep. I know, how could it be so simple? Weren't you expecting like a supplement regimen or like a smoothie recipe or something? Actually, getting 8 hours or so of quality sleep a night, I'm talking about 8 hours of like tossing and turning bed, I'm talking like 8 hours of shut eye, can make an enormous difference. And if you are not getting that quality sleep, that may be the reason that you're having weak erections to begin with, because a deep regenerative sleep is crucial for pretty much all of our bodily functions, and that includes especially your hard-on. This is true for a lot of reasons. Sleep is about stress management, hormonal balancing. It's the time when your body's producing testosterone. You cannot overemphasize the importance of sleep. And if you are someone who suffers from sleep apnea or isn't getting enough oxygen during their sleep, that also could be a culprit to your weak erections, because remember, the circulatory system and all of the blood flowing through the body is in many ways, first and foremost, an oxygen delivery system that is sending oxygen throughout your whole body to keep it alive and functioning at its best. And if you do not have enough oxygen to, say, keep your liver functioning, your body is definitely not going to have enough oxygen to get an erection and mate, which is how it makes decisions. So first of all, it keeps you alive, then it gives you a chance to mate with the honeys. It's just evolution speaking. Which brings me to tip number 5. Speaking of the honeys, reconsider porn. My last tip for you is to take a look at your relationship to porn. Look, arousal plays a major factor in how hard you're able to get. And if you are exclusively touching yourself to hardcore gangbang porn or whatever it is that you're super into, you might be getting desensitized. And it's possible that the simple pleasure of a singular, naked, relatively normal woman might not do it for you anymore. And if this is the case, it's a good idea to lay off porn for a little while, let your body sort of like recalibrate for 6 to 12 weeks. Might suck at first, but over time your brain will be retrained to experience arousal without the extreme visual input. Same goes for the way you're masturbating. If you're using a death grip in order to get you off, then you might be struggling to stay hard from a gentler touch or from the less grippy inside of a woman. There are not enough Kegels on earth to make a vagina able to compete with a firmly locked fist. And that shouldn't really be the point anyway. So get yourself back to a less extreme sensitivity threshold. Yes, it'll take a little bit of time, but it may just be the answer to achieving those rock hard-ons. And let me say that if you've tried all of the above and there's actually, I feel like there's something else going on, don't forget that you have the right to ask for adjustments, changes, what you need and what you're into when you're having sex. And if you find yourself just in the moment struggling with anything when it comes to sex and performance, try to take some deep breaths and remember that even though you may have been told that this performance is all in you and your worth and your value and everything lies on this, be gentler to yourself, especially to your man down there, because being difficult on yourself will not solve the problem, and it certainly will not invite you to do any of the 5 tips and pieces of advice that I gave you. These cannot come from a shame space. These have to come from a space of loving yourself and wanting the best for yourself. Because regardless of what's causing your weakened erections, the absolute first step is to take a look at your lifestyle, your habits, and determine what can be done to make sure that you are performing at your best, both inside and outside the bedroom. And of course, if you are still regularly struggling to get and maintain erections, it is always a good idea to call in some professional help. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more things all about making sure you have the best sex of your life. I'm Caitlin V. I'll see you here next week.